Good to hear that one again from Peter and Gordon. I Go to Pieces being the title, written by Del Shannon, who's my guest in the studio, and that one was just simply a huge hit in the States. Bigger, actually, than it was over here.
I believe so.
Yeah. Do you like writing for other people?
Not especially. I just rather write for myself, because it's so hard to come up with songs anyway. I mean, if you listen to most albums of people, you'll find that there's maybe 3 or 4 that you like. The reason is it's so hard to come up with great hooks and great ideas, really. And so I would prefer writing for myself, and that's what I do. I even wrote I Go to Pieces for myself. My producer said, "Nah, you shouldn't do this song. It's not for you." And I had to Keep Searching at the time. It was up-tempo, so we went with that. And Peter and Gordon, we gave that to them. But I have written songs like, I've never written really a song for someone like Cheap Love, which was a hit about a year ago by Juice Newton. I put out as a record, but it didn't make it. I think I put it out over here. And my company just was showing it to her, and she liked it a lot, so she recorded it.
Mm-hmm. Actually, all throughout the 60s, when you were making that enormous string of hits, you seemed to be a fellow who really wanted to keep very much in control of what was actually being recorded, how it sounded, very much in on the mix and everything.
Yes, I was. It was hard, though, at first, because they thought, why don't you shut up and just sing your songs and write them, And I had to argue for Hats Off to Larry, like the intro. I remember having to fight for that, And I was kind of bullied around, It was like, in those days, boy, it was tough. I mean...
Because generally a lot of performers more or less had to do what they were told.
That's right, yeah. And I was a fighter, and I even went to court in '63 for 2 years.
What was that over?
Suing. Well, I wasn't getting paid the right amount of money, and so I finally sued him again in '67 or '8 or something, and got all my masters in publishing back.
Mm. Was it actually, the introduction of the Mersey sound and all of that put a temporary halt on the hits that you were churning out?
It didn't stop me too much. I kept having hits up until '65. Then I went into production and stuff with other people. Mm. But it stopped. I mean, '64, Keep Searching was a top 10 record here in America. So it didn't hurt me much there, but I could see it was really, English were really taking over America.
But you performed alongside the Beatles. I remember one concert.
Yeah, they performed with me, actually, at the Albert Hall.
Oh, they were second to you, were they?
That's right, yeah. And we're playing there again, actually the 12th of June. I think the second that's sold out. The first show's at 4 o'clock. I think that's the tickets for that. But that's one of my favorite places to play in the world is Albert Hall. Not so much for the sound, because I never heard myself sing in there. I just, it's just a great, awesome place,
Huge,
Wonderful.
Isn't it?
Huge, yeah. It's like playing with a bullfight or something.
So what do you remember of that particular night? Because what a double bill, Del Shannon and the Beatles.
The Beatles, and then there was a lot of other acts. I don't remember who they were at this point. But it was great, because that's when the night I told John Lennon I was going to do From Me to You, cover his record. He saw that would be great, mate. And then he walked on stage and he turned around and he said, "Don't do that."
But you did.
But I did anyway, yeah. Because I was sort of getting even. Because anything that was released over here was mainly covered by British artists. So I was getting even. So I was getting a little cover one of yours now.
And then quite recently, didn't George Harrison turn up at one of your recordings?
Yeah, well, Jeff Lynne and I are pretty good mates. And Jeff was, of course, with the LO, but now he's producing, and he produced George Harrison's last very successful album in America, and #1 record. And he called, and he said he was producing Tom Petty about 2 months ago, and he said, "Come on down and sing some background." So I did. And then Petty said to me, when you're recording again, let me know. We'll pop in, So I called Tom, and Tom said, "Well, I'm with Jeff and George, and maybe we'll pop down." So they came down about midnight and sang some background on one of my songs. It was quite fun, and talking to George. And
I think it's lovely.
I hadn't seen him in 20 years. I hadn't seen him.
So you had a good chinwag, did you?
We had a good chinwag, yes. Yes.
It's good to think that.
I like that.
Yeah. It's good though to think that they're doing backings for you.
Yeah, it was great fun. We were all just rocking and bopping.
Right.
It was a great night, really.
Actually, when you got into the business in the first place, wasn't it allegedly through a vent act? Ventriloquist act.
Oh no, I was a ventriloquist when I was a child. Howdy Doody was a puppet on TV, and you could get Howdy Doody dummies, and so "Hi, how you doing?" And I would do that kind of thing, I don't do
Your
it
lips
anymore.
didn't move once.
The only thing that a dummy ever did for me is there was a little neighbor kid used to live next door to us, and she would never come over to the house. She was so shy. One time I popped that little dummy over the fence, And the dummy got her into the house, you know. Hello, how you doing? And so she joined our family, you know.
Yeah.
The little neighbor kid who wouldn't come over.
Did you teach yourself then to play guitar?
Yes, I did. I was self-taught. I would go and anywhere there was a guitar player playing, I would go and watch his fingers and watch his hands, and then I'd go back home and try to... It was backwards. Watching a person on stage, you'd be watching him backwards. And then you'd get little chord books with little dots where your fingers go. But I just really wanted to play so bad.
But as with any musician or singer or group or whatever, it's always getting that first recording, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how did you get that?
Well, the first recording was done, it was a black fellow named Ollie McLaughlin who lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is about 80 miles from Battle Creek, where I was starting out. He came down. I said, I heard that he was black, and I said, you shouldn't come to the club at night and record us, because it was a redneck club, you know, they might hang him, I don't know. It was a very I shouldn't say that. My wife's here. She doesn't think me say Red Wing. I should say, I don't know what you call them, rednecks. I call them rednecks. And he came out on a Saturday afternoon and recorded some original songs, and they took him to Detroit, and then they took me to New York, and we did Runaway. And I did a couple songs with The Search and I'll Always Love You, which were on my first album. They were never released because they weren't really singles. And we went back in and did Runaway, and that was my first release.
But it was fairly overnight stuff, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, 3 weeks it was a hit, and I was out of that club. And I haven't been back since. They sent me a brick. The club closed
a brick
down.
From what?
Well, they tore the club down. I started out in Hilo Club. It's a parking lot now. But I have a brick.
They sent you one of the originals.
A brick, and it still smells a little bit smoky. It's also a smoky place.
Did it all go to your head initially? I mean, if you had this instant stardom.
No, I don't think so. I was still not, never believed that much myself anyway.
Why was that, do you think?
I don't know, just the way I was, you know. I mean, I had Keep Searching in the charts, top 10, and I Go to Pieces was the top 10 that I wrote. And I was sitting in the back seat of a car with a coat over my head on a tour. I was so depressed, thinking, oh, this will be it. I can't top this. I wasn't in a very good place in those days, really.
Where were you living at the time?
In Michigan, Detroit. Then I moved to California. Then I quit drinking about 10 years ago. That's really changed my life.
Did you have a really bad period of drinking? Were you on drugs as well?
Oh, a few.
Yeah.
But mainly booze. The only reason I mention it is because if somebody has a problem with booze or drugs, there is help. You know, there's definitely help for someone who gets up in the morning and says, oh, I got to do it again. My God, I can't help it, you know.
So how did you manage to kick it in the end?
I went to the hospital. To a hospital for about 3 weeks. It's great now. Yeah, I'm in a lot better shape than I was. I feel like I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life, I guess. Because I run every day. I don't smoke dope, I don't drink. I'm not saying that it's bad. It's bad for me.
Did you ever look back and think of all the time that you wasted, you know, through drink and whatever else you were taking?
Yeah, but I had to do what I had to do with my life. I think everybody has to do what they got to do. And that's what I had to do to get where I'm at today with my head. You see, I'm talking about heads, not hits. That's how you feel inside. I see people today have hits, and if their last one isn't a hit, they go in their room. Not all of them, but some of them lock themselves away. You know, they're so depressed and stuff. And I went through that period. Hits will grab you and eat you up. This record business will eat you up. You got to be very careful of it. And you find out that there's more to life than hit records. There really is more. It's inside.
It's just a shame in a way, you know. I mean, funny enough, Richard Harris was on this program last week, and I mean, mind you, Richard would say he doesn't regret any of it, but nevertheless, he says that now that he's off drink and settled from that point of view, that he feels better than he's ever done in his whole life. It
Absolutely.
just seems, you know, to take an awful long time to arrive at that decision.
It sometimes forever, sometimes people never make it. I have friends who drink and they're not, maybe they won't make it, you know, they might.
So when you say you keep yourself in very good shape, do you make a point of running every single day?
I wouldn't say very good shape. I could keep myself in much better shape if I had more time at home. Can't eat right on the road. I can get home and lose maybe 10 pounds. Real easy. But on the road, then you sort of put it back on. But I run every day if I can. Like this morning, there's no way I can run. You know, I've been busy all day. But I will probably run tomorrow morning. Every morning.
You can go into one of our lovely London parks here and have a good run.
Oh, yeah, Hyde Park. I run on that when I stay around the gardens. If I stay there, I run there. I run in halls. If I'm in the States and it's snowing, I will run in the hall.
In the hall of a hotel or something?
Oh, sure. The maids run around the maids.
Round and round and round and round.
It really works.
Very good. I'll talk about the touring in a second, because it's a fairly hectic schedule for you, but this time it was a number 4 hit in 1963, Little Town Flirt, so we'll play it first and talk about it later. Del Shannon, who's in the studio with me today, and his Little Town Flirt. One wonders about that title, Del. You know, was it written about anyone in particular?
Oh, maybe. This fella came in, Robert McKenzie, who wrote it with me, and he said, I got this great idea. It's called Little Town Flirt. He should come down the street. And I said, wait a minute. Because he always wrote songs real fast like that. He couldn't write melodies too well. I guess he could. So I just took that idea and then went back to a girl I went with when I was probably 16 or something. And I went to a dance, and she was with this other guy. And I chased him in my car. I couldn't catch him. So I guess it probably fits her. I always say on stage, this is for Karen. Her name was Karen.
Yeah, wherever she may be today.
Flirt she was, from Allendale, Michigan.
Wasn't there a really bad story, though, from this country about this record?
Yeah, somebody put it on the turntable, turned it up loud, and took a hammer to his wife or girlfriend. It was in the paper years ago. I don't know if he's still in jail. It didn't kill her.
Fortunately.
But, yeah, thank goodness. But she must have been a little flirt or something, you know. And I thought, well, I wrote a song and the guy could kill his wife with it. Well, maybe, I don't know, what can I say?
Bit of an extreme way of getting publicity for a record, but nevertheless.
Yeah, it was a horrible thing, you know.
We're about to launch onto this tour. In fact, it'll be running mostly for the month of June, from the 1st to the 24th. But when you go back over some of those crazy days in the 60s, you know, touring with a lot of the names in this country, any particular stories spring to mind?
Well, touring with the English was strange for me, you know. We used to do our show, like in New York, and get off and go home, and here, there were certain, like, tribal things, or where at Dusty Springfield in the Springfield, they would break glasses and dishes and stuff. Some kind of ritual they went through after a show was finished or something. I don't think it was every show, but I remember that. And then at one time they made us get off the bus. They said, the bridge will not handle us all. So we got off the bus, and we walked across the bridge. It was just a great big put-on, you see. But they were very serious, and I sort of half-bleed, and I said, well, I don't want the bridge to cave in, really, so...
So that was a Dusty Springfield special, was it?
Yes, and Buzz Clifford, I remember one night, beat up on the road manager on the tour on the bus. It was a horrible night. He got all crazy. He used to wear gum, take his gum and roll it up and put it over his lip and look like Dracula, you know. Although he was a good-looking kid, Buzz Clifford, he had babysitting boogie or something. And he beat the road manager up, and we had to stop at a hospital and get stitches in his lip. Yeah, some ruckus days, you know.
Nice soul.
But there was a lot of fun times.
I mean, do you look back on them and say they were really good fun days, or did you get tired
really,
of
if you talk about them, if you ask me about them, then I recall them. If not, I don't really sweat and dwell on them, no. I don't stay too much in the past as far as that goes. I don't listen to a lot of music. I listen to classical music, and I listen to country music, and I listen to some oldies, you know. I like, my wife and I have a great song. We like, we listen to PJ Proby do Hold Me. Hold Me! He's got this great guitar lick, and we call it the garage lick, because it sounds like it's cut in a garage, which it might have been, and that's even greater, because a lot of rock and roll records in the old days were cut in garages, anywhere you could cut them.
That's right.
And so we have, you know, some favorite songs. I love the Flamingos. I still like the Flamingos.
So you're very much into country music these days?
Yeah.
Is that to listen to, or are you starting to record?
I listen to it and I sing it. You know, I've always sang it. I've had some chart records with Warner Brothers about 3 years ago. And I'm sort of headed that way again, you know. It's the only really way to cut records in America, for me, is to go into the country. I mean, I'm not 17 anymore, and to clash with what's going on over there now is heavy metal and all this kind of stuff, you know, which I'm really not. So the door for me to open is probably through the country. And I love country. I grew up with it.
But in the meantime, of course, there's been this tremendous 60s revival in terms of tours and concerts in this country. I mean, people are turning out in droves.
It's everywhere. It's in America, Australia, Canada. It just never stops.
So in this case, Del Shannon, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Marmalade are there. So it's going to be a very good tour. I'll just read down a few of the places because... tonight, where are you? You've got a night off tonight, have you? No, you're not. You're in Oxford tonight.
Oxford, yeah. And
then you're going to places like Birmingham and Peterborough and Portsmouth and Exeter and Newport and Hull and Carlisle, all sorts of places. So I will keep this on our board in the office, and then if anybody wants to know exactly where you're going to be,
okay, you're going to be in Scotland too on the 14th, Aberdeen, 15th, Dundee, 16th, and Edinburgh. Edinburgh's a lovely place.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of running in a lot of hotel lobbies over the next month. What do you think?
I know. I said I would never do it again. And here I am.